back to my channel. So today I'm going to hopefully be uploading 2 videos to you guys. So I'm going to be doing a book review on Cain by Jean Toomer. I have the book right here, as well as a writing video. But for this video, I think I'm going to just do my review, and then I will do the writing video in the next video that I upload. Hopefully either by today or by tomorrow. So without further ado, let's get started. So I literally just finished reading this book like not even a week ago, and it was quite an interesting experience. Just a little background story. Jean Toomer is a Southern Creole writer. He was born in the United States, and he writes, he's kind of like the first, I guess, writer during the modernism period to write about Black culture that was an archetype, that wasn't filled with archetypes or stereotypes. But he is a mixed man, and he usually passed as white, which was the reason why he's very controversial in literature when we talk about him. But this book is not like a regular novel. It's filled with short stories broken up into pieces by songs and hymns and poems. And it's really interesting because it's kind of blanketed by all these kind of scenic descriptions. It was interesting. I've never read a book like this in school. The thing is, I read several of the poems already in another book that was like a Harlem Renaissance like short story collection, and a lot of his pieces that are in Cain were in that book. So a lot of the stories I heard already, like Bonna and Paul and Blood Burning Moon, and like several other stories, and Corintha, and all the other ones like that are here. But just to tell you guys, like, this is a novel that I think in a lot of ways describes the reality of Black people, not only at the time of 1923, because I believe that's the year that this book is published, which is, fun fact, the book I'm writing is actually set in that time, so that's interesting. But it's really, really cool to read from a Black author that is mixed, who has kind of he has his foot in both parks. You know, he understands that kind of ignorance, I guess, that ignorance that, you know, proceeds with the white culture at that time. At the same time, he has a really deep resonating understanding of the Black community. But the reason why he's so controversial is because he didn't consider himself Black. A lot of people believe that it was because he was ashamed of him being a mixed person. The reason why he didn't he didn't regard himself as Black. But he is controversial in that way. And what I really love about this edition, because I have 2 editions of the book that I got accidentally, but I'm really glad I did, because this one is actually, I believe that the introduction is written by W.E.B. Du Bois. So yeah, so it's really, really interesting, and he talks about the sexual liberation in Cain, with the women characters in this book, as well as the men characters, and it's really, really interesting. But just to tell you guys, my favorite pieces. My favorite pieces in this book would have to be Beth, which talks about a white woman who has 2 Black sons, and kind of it's such a great piece because because of the fact that she had 2 Black sons. We don't actually learn how that happens, like if she was in love with their father or if she was raped or anything like that. We don't know that, but we do know that the community that she lives in is very, very divided, because, you know, you have the whites that are against her because she crossed racial lines, and you have the Blacks that are against her because she's a white woman. So it's very interesting how he kind of balances that dynamic between both, and he does it really well in such a short amount of, like, you know, in such a short piece. He writes it so well. There was that piece. There's Cabness, who is a northern black man who comes down to the South to teach, and kind of like his degrade into, you know, realizing his place as a black man in Southern society. And just really great pieces like that. To be honest with you, a lot of the themes that circle in these stories are so prevalent now, I think. And in each of one of the biggest themes I think that Jean Toomer has in these books is the significance, to me, the significance of the title, like cane. As we know, like, you know, sugar canes was one of the, you know, it's one of the things where, you know, African slaves would be working in like the cane plantations and things like that. And that was just one of the, like, sugar canes was one of the things that kind of, I think, imprisoned a lot of black people during that time. And so it's so resounding that he uses cane as his title, because it shows Black's place, I think, the psychological place that Black people are put in modern society. And in a way, we're still in those fields based on the way that we think about ourselves, the way that we think about other people, the way we think about people in our race, people outside of our race, and it keeps us in those fields. And that's something that is so powerful. I can understand why he's controversial. I can understand why it's not a book that is cited, but it should be, because it's something that, to me, good, healthy controversy leads to great dialogue, and great dialogue leads to solutions. And it really enlightens people when you show them a world that outside of the world that they know. And I think Toomer does that so well. I'm so glad that I read it. I'm kind of ashamed to admit that I've never heard of him before I read this book. I'm glad I did read his pieces, but I didn't know about him per se. And one of the things I think that's really, I think, great about me being in college is that I'm being introduced to all these people that are just like me, that are Black, that, you know, have struggles that maybe I might not understand completely, but I find they are resonating with me in some sort of way in regard to my identity. And growing up, I grew up just reading from white dead old guys, and even though I appreciated their literature and I appreciated their work, there was a kind of a level of disconnect. And when you read pieces from people like Jean Toomer, or people like Langston Hughes or Toni Morrison or Zora Hurston, it's just Zora Neale Hurston. Those are people that I think connect with so many different people. It's not even just Blacks, but it's just people of color, people that are minorities. Like that goes across the board, and they can connect. Every one of them can connect to those books. And to be honest with you, I think that's one of the reasons why we have a lot of people that don't read, because there's a lack of connection. And the reason why is because a lot of schools do not read this. Like, why is it that I'm in college, I'm hearing about people like him, I'm reading pieces like him? That's so prevalent to this time. I mean, this is set in 1923. That's more than 90 years ago that this book was written, and it's still prevalent today. A lot of the themes, like, not only for Black culture, but just, you know, like xenophobia and all those intolerances and prejudices that still precedes us today. Why is it that books that talk about it, that talk about colonialism, that talk about those realities of prejudice and intolerance that does survive in this country, how come we're not reading about them? And how come they're not mandatory, not only for 1 month of the year, but for all of it? And why is it that we have a partition between African American literature, and American literature? It's something that completely does not make any sense, because now, like, not even nowadays, it's something that the reality of our country is that race has always been an issue in this country, because this is a country full of immigrants. So yeah, I'm sorry that rant was a little bit kind of like, I didn't plan to rant like that, but yeah, just to show you how deep this book hit me, and I think that it can hit you too. If any of you guys have read Cane, or have read any, I think this is the only publication Jean Toomer actually published, I guess because of the backlash or whatever it was, but this is the only book that we have from him. But if any of you guys know of any other authors that are just, you know, that you think I should read and I should do more videos like this and review, please leave them in the comments below. I'm open to it. If you've never read Cain, I highly suggest you do. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, of course. I've been lucky this year. I've only been reading really great books. I've yet to read a bad book. Well, that's kind of a lie, but that's gonna be for another video. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.